I want to share what everyone's been experiencing the past week. That is only, it's okay with you guys, you know, the sleeplessness, the just anger, at least for me, that's what I'm just sharing. Just anger would come out of nowhere for no particular reason, or I would have memories resurface up from 10, 20 years ago that I have no memory of. Like, okay, a conversation I had with someone who's totally not in my life now anymore just resurface up in just like 1 second, and all of a sudden I just feel anger towards that conversation or that memory. And then I just sort of like, well, is this anger mine? Well, yeah, it's kind of mine. But I'm like, well, should I release it? I mean, do I really need it right now? 20 years later? No. I just give it away to my angels, and they take it away, and I feel like that's it. That's done with. So it's just kind of amazing all the work that they've been doing. So I wanted to share that with you guys and see if you guys, you know, been experiencing something similar.
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely. I know last week, even while I was on vacation, when we had after Wednesday night when we came up to the cabin, in like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I had these moments where this anger would come through me, and it's like, why am I angry? I'm on vacation, I'm with my family, and it was stuff from the past where it would come up, and I was doing a lot of talking to the angels. Okay, angels, please take this away and transmute it into love and light. And then it would go away, and then something else would come up. And it was like, even my husband was like, why are you so angry? Like, I don't know. I'd have to walk away. And it's like, it was like 3 days worth of those feelings. It's like, I don't like me today. What's going on? But yeah, I had a lot of that. And then the sleepless, waking up during the middle of the night, not being able to get back to sleep. A lot of that. And then I got sick on Monday. So a lot of all of that type of stuff.
That's a lot of clearing. I just see it
Yeah.
as the light coming in. I
Mhm.
didn't have anger, but I had anxiety. And I'm not an anxious type of person. So it's like, what is this? So that's how it was coming up for me. And just sit with it and then release, right? It's just the healing. I see it as just the healing process. So we're just bringing in so much light. And I think we all got activated. And Angie, I think you talk about this with your guides as well. We're all activated. So they're going to be bringing more and more in, you know, we're the sort of the forerunners, I guess, receiving more light so we can share it.
Yeah, I feel we got bombarded with a bunch of energies. And so the stuff that we were hanging on to that maybe we didn't know because we compartmentalized came up because we were, you know, trying to keep going without acknowledging it. At least that's felt for me. And so the cosmic energies, if you will, came through and were like, okay, now you have to deal with this. Now you have to. And I don't even think you had to deal with it as much as you had to understand it was there and release it. Like you didn't go into the depths of despair.
No.
Just know it was there, recognize it, and release it. So, and that when that happens to me, like it did this week, I got so tired, and then I get so tired. And if I'm going and I can't like go to sleep, I get crabby. And so I knew where my crabbiness was coming from, but yeah, it does make me tired, and it's just my way of being able to process that energy that is coming through. So yeah.
I think that's the key, is recognizing. You know, you don't have to relive it, just recognize it, acknowledge it, thank it, and goodbye.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, Robyn. I've been sort of, that's a weird one. Been sort of remembering some of my past lives that maybe I wasn't the happiest with or in. And today I'm just sort of getting this message like, thank those experiences because
Yeah.
it made you who you are. Just like if an
Mhm.
experience happened in this life many years ago, I'm like, well, it wasn't a happy experience, but this is where it led me to be here and now.
Yeah.
And so really how is that different that maybe a different life shows up and I'm not the happiest there. I'm like, well, thank that experience as well. So
Mhm.
that was a new one to me.
Yeah, I learned that a while ago.
Yeah.
Just give gratitude to it because it is what shapes you, you
Yeah,
know.
totally.
Yeah, this has been a huge releasing, clearing, activation week, I feel for all of us. And I had some similar experiences where somebody from my past I hadn't even thought about or seen in God knows over 2 decades. I don't know the exact time, but and saw this person. And so and also I experienced that some feelings of anger as well, and where it can be rather uncomfortable. Not always a big fan of it. I think a lot of the healing comes when, like what you guys are saying, is when we allow that energy to move through,
Mhm.
and maybe maybe there's a trigger we're working through, or just a piece of ourselves, be it our um inner child or a past life that needs validation and needs to be comforted and sort of healed through that experience. And sometimes it can be a quick process, and I think that there's a lot of at least for me, there was a lot of confusion of, okay, I know I need to heal, but how do we heal? And it sort of dawned on me that um it's simple, but it's not easy.
Mhm.
But it could be easy. But a lot of it is basically, it's just a natural process. Things arise, we notice it, acknowledge it, do what we need with it, and release it. And I feel like that's a huge a huge piece of it. And also that a lot of these energies are need to be cleared for us to all elevate, and some of them are collective. But what I was getting at is that um we don't need, so previously I've heard return any energy that's not yours to sender, but to me it feels like we are helping transmute this energy for the
Mhm.
collective as well. So if we receive these energies that may not be ours, um well, we could send it off to be transmuted, right? Because I don't want to return that to sender. They're not
I know. It's playing a
healing.
game.
Not be aware to begin with, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're transmuting a lot for ourselves, but also for the collective. And also it's okay to be angry and have grief or sad or happy. All of these, they're all just frequencies that want to move through. And
Mhm.
um because I feel, especially as women, sometimes it can be looked down upon to be angry, or how do you
Mhm.
express yourself as anger. And I was curious what you guys think about, maybe we could talk about how you know when it's your energy and when it's
Yeah.
not your
Somebody
energy.
else.
You ask yourself and
Mm-hmm.
see what your inner self tells you. Does it feel like yours? Is it current? If it is yours, is it current? Is it from the past? Is it from the past? Is it needed? Can I let it go? If it's current, I guess the same question. Is it needed? Can I let it go? If it's not yours, well, definitely don't hold on to that.
Mhm.
Does anyone else have anything to share regarding that?
I do, if I could. I think emotions are very, very, very important which is why we have them on Earth as humans, because from what I understand, anywhere else in the galaxy, they're not as prominent, the emotions, and they're here. We are able to utilize them in order to teach ourselves about who we are and possibly others around us. So I learned quite a while ago that to feel my emotions is really important. And so if I'm sad, I need to cry. If I'm angry, I need to be angry. But that doesn't necessarily mean to be angry and just spill it out on the world. But, you know, be angry in a place where you can feel your emotion and then discover why you're angry and what does that mean for you. So I feel like that's what will teach us. And so it boils down to knowing your own emotions before you can realize you're having somebody else's emotions. So if you are, say you're watching the news and you don't feel happy, because this is exactly where I learned this. I'm watching the news every morning and I realized after about a half an hour, kids are getting ready for school, we're eating breakfast, whatever, turn off the news, it's time to go to school, and we're all pissed. Everybody's mad at each other. And I'm like, well, this is not any fun. And then I realized, like, as it keeps going, the news keeps talking about deaths and shootings and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I can't tolerate this anymore. And then I had to off. But it boiled down to me understanding my own emotion. And I also understand the true emotion that is from Creator is happiness, joy, love, and all the positives. So if you know all of that, then all the other emotions you're feeling can be related to something that can teach you about yourself. Because the truth of who you are is love and happiness and joy, because they all come from the same source. So I think that's key. So once you know that, then you're more clear about, okay, I was really happy, and then he came home and now I'm not happy anymore. And then, okay, well, that's probably because I'm holding on to his emotions and they're not mine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I see emotions. I've been kind of learned that a while ago because it was such a big part of my life for so long, I think. So
There's the empathic thing as well. When you're picking up, like I would pick up on how someone's feeling. It's like, whoa, this is like, this happened like years ago. It's like, wow, I suddenly feel really sick. What's going on here? And then I realized, oh, and I was in clinics where there were patients who had cancer and they were all doing IVs, and so I would pick up on how they're feeling, or going to the acupuncturist. It's like, oh, I feel so sick. And then I realize it's your patient in the room. They're so sick. He goes, oh, yes, this one is very sick. I said, well, you need to release this from me. I was having him use the acupuncture to release whatever I picked up from her. It was so intense. But then I realized, oh, I'm picking up. So a lot of the things are like, so now I recognize that, like that experience really showed me. It's like, oh, it's not me. Or I'll be with a friend and it's like, I feel anxiety. And I would say, are you feeling anxious? Well, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I go, okay, because I feel it. So recognizing what's not yours, and then empathically, like people around you, it's so crucial to understanding yourself better too. So when you realize it may not belong to you, and you can do that when somebody else enters your space, and then it's like, wow, this is how they're feeling. It's not me, and then you can deal with it better. So that was my experience. But.
Toma, I wanted to ask a clarifying question when you said that you ask and you get the answers, and I wanted to see if you could clarify in what form or forms do you get the answers? And is it you listen to the initial response, or?
I would say for me, most of the time, it would be what I call an inner knowing. So clear, what's what's it
Cognitive.
called? Clear
Cognizant.
Cognizance. Yep.
cognizant. Okay. Or sometimes just a small voice in your head. That sounds very much like your own, sort of like an intuition, if you will. So kind of go with the first thing. But it's very much comes from, for me at least, this is just talking about myself, that clear cognizance comes from the chest, the heart chakra area. And I just kind of go with that flow. That's
Mm-hmm. Yes, so it's like it's an inner knowing and also a feeling.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's important because I think sometimes people might hear, well, I asked the question, but I didn't hear anything. But we have to sort of retrain ourselves how to hear our inner knowing that we all have. And so it is just that. And I think the difference between um somebody that considers themselves intuitive and not is that they simply trust and listen to that inner knowing, and versus not.
Versus they doubt it. Oh, I'm just telling myself stories, or no,
Mhm.
could I possibly have heard that, or no, this can't possibly be true, right? So you're kind of overriding that system,
Mm-hmm.
and really the answer is to clear all the systems, isn't it?
Yes.
Mhm.
Um,
Self-doubt is a program, and self-doubt is like the antidote to intuition, sort of. I think Angie was talking about feeling how important it is to feel emotions, and I absolutely agree. And so we learned a technique called red rooming. I don't know if any of y'all have been doing that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
thank you for mentioning that, Ava. I was thinking the same exact thing.
Does anybody want to explain what red rooming is?
Red rooming is when you have these really strong emotions and you picture yourself in this red room. We learned in the mediumship course through Kristin Davies, who was awesome. Picture yourself in this red room, talk to your angels, tell them, okay, I'm doing the red room. You put yourself in the situation of what your strong emotions are about. Uh, say what you need to say, think what you need to think, and your angels will keep those emotions in that room, isolate it, and transmute it so it's not sent off into the collective. That's my understanding.
Yes.
Excellent.
Anybody else want to add anything?
You can yell and scream.
Yes, you can yell, you can scream,
I'm
whatever you want.
sorry, I've even slapped people in the red room.
But it's all contained, and that's the beauty of it.
Oh, Toma's got her boxing gloves on.
So
I
the
never,
way I
I
imagine
never
my
thought of
red
doing
room,
that.
What
gosh, I
happens in
mean,
the red room stays in the red room.
stays in the red room. It's not like a Vegas, you know. Last
Yeah.
time I was flying to Vegas, they said what happens in Vegas stays on Facebook now.
Yeah.
This one actually stays in the red room.
Yeah.
Thanks for the tip.
It truly is such a beautiful, not always beautiful. Sometimes it's, it is what it is, but it's a great way to get those emotions out. And because so oftentimes we hold in these really strong emotions, and that is one of the things that can create what we know is the dis-ease, where I've heard that, for instance, cancer can be represented as unexpressed anger. Um, and so it is really important to see these emotions, like Angie was talking about, as serving us. And as difficult as they can be, it's also a beauty to be able to feel this myriad and color. And I'm curious what you guys think about feeling things clairsentiently, because you know, as we all have, there's several different Clairs. She's just a sort of the way you can receive information, and one of them being clairsentience. And I think it can be an incredible indicator, so long as we're able to let that energy move through, because a lot of psychics and mediums sometimes can develop some illnesses because they're carrying around many different energies. So it's one thing where we can kind of choose how we want to receive energy, and it is a very powerful Clair. So if that is one of our strong suits, to be intentional about letting that energy move through, and clearing and grounding it.
Yes, Ava, grounding is a big one. I was just gonna remind, just given to the angels and for them to transmute, whether it's a red room situation that you employ for yourself, or whatever, but um whatever the techniques that sort of work for you, go ahead, Angie.
So I was gonna say, as a Reiki practitioner, I didn't realize that becoming a Reiki practitioner was going to open up my clairs. I needed guidance on how to use them, I think. And once I had that guidance, it just all came flooding in. So when I see blockages in people's energy, usually it's related to not allowing yourself to feel certain things. And it creates, because everything is energy. And that's what my guides tell me all the time. Everything is energy. Your thoughts create energy. This desk is energy. Everything is energy. So if your thoughts are preventing you from the flow of the movement of the energy through your body, you're going to get a blockage. Those blockages can cause diseases over time. So the flow of the energy through your body is feeling the emotions and feeling the different feelings that come through. So people who walk around with armors around their body protect themselves from feeling emotions. And so it doesn't serve them to be able to open up to their clairs if they're constantly wearing an armor. So it's so important to allow yourself to feel those energies, to allow, if you, especially if you want to connect to your clairs, which we're all supposed to be connecting to our clairs. We're all supposed to be all of the clairs, but we have been manipulated to believe we're not. So we in essence are preventing our clairs from coming through by not understanding that we're supposed to be that way. So long story short, back to the emotions, it really boils down to feeling everything and just really being open to life and understanding its flow so that you can feel it.
Wow, that was really powerful. Like, something you said just clicked in a different way, where oftentimes we'll have stronger clairs than others, or we might feel like there's some stuck energy, and so that's directly correlated to, if I understood you right, your allowance and willingness to feel those energies coming through and let it move through. And so we sometimes don't allow certain emotions, and so basically we are our own block, and we are our own flow or freedom at the same time.
You make me feel like I need to schedule the red room once a week.
No,
Because I don't think that's probably what's blocking me. Yeah. It's like, I'm going to set an alarm on my clock to Red Room.
There's another alarm. One alarm for grounding, another for red rooming.
Another, yeah.
I wonder, you guys, if you think that, would you say reacting to a trigger or an emotion, and I guess we have to define what reacting is, but that feels like it would also inhibit the flow, sort of like, and I feel like one of y'all can say this better, because say you feel anger and then you might project it onto somebody around you or something. So you might be feeling it, but the way you're expressing it doesn't seem to respect the flow or transmuting it.
Yeah, it does. It totally makes sense. I equate it to teaching my children how to feel their feelings in a way that doesn't, like you said, infringe upon the other person's energy, right? Like, you could feel your emotions, you can be mad at me, I get that, but maybe I need to teach them to Red Room. But in the moment, they get so caught up, and even I do, especially when I'm tired, especially when they're tired, when they're hungry or whatever, and everybody can be like this, but you get caught up in that trigger and you're like, Urgh. And then 10 minutes later you're like, why did I do that? But I think that happens because we are always so ungrounded, that because we're always so busy, we're always doing, we're always, doing other things, that we're not staying grounded like we're supposed to, because this world was created for us to not remember who we are. And if you want to remember who you are, you have to ground. And so the person you're not comes out with a trigger because you're not grounded. So it's just a matter of having thick skin, I guess, with other people to understand that, all right, that's not them. Let me explain to them why that's not them and how we can feel our feelings without infringing upon other people. It's definitely a learning curve after this 3D world we've been living.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It helped me just knowing that it's a trigger. It's like this person is just triggered by something, and then it seemed to be easier to deal with. I just look at them and go, okay, they're triggered. I'm going to try not to take offense or whatever, and let them go through their triggered moment. Let them feel it and release it. But it's difficult.
Not taking it personally.
Right. I don't take it That's it. I don't take it personal anymore. It's like, okay. It's not always, it doesn't always turn out that way, but for the most part, it's like, oh, they're running a program right now. I recognize it. I'll let them run it.
Exactly.
And you're not owning it anymore. It's a program. We're all running them. Some people have dealt with them more than others, and some people need to learn about them still.
And some need to unlearn them.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So on these days when you feel like it's been a challenging day for you, and you're like, I need to ground myself. This is a challenging day for me. How do you ground yourself on the go, I guess? You're out and about, you're shopping, and your kids are there, and they're like, Mom, I want this, or I want that, or I'm hungry, or whatever it is. You have had a sleepless night. How do you ground yourself?
So something I do really quickly is, if I need to do it quickly, if I'm in a place where I can close my eyes, if I'm not, then I don't, such as if I'm driving. But if I can close my eyes, I'll just close my eyes and I'll connect in and just connecting with a deep breath, even if I just have time for one deep breath, and I envision a big tree trunk, this width of my hips, connecting from my root chakra down into the center of the earth. And I also envision cosmic energy coming through the crown of my head, and it sort of circulating. And as I'm grounding, there's this sort of like filtration. If you think of screens on your window, many screens, as the energy grounds and it goes through and it clears and clears and clears and clears. And so that can be done even with one simple breath. And then of course there's many other ways. If I can go out on a walk in nature, or hang out with an animal, or sing or listen to some music, or take a bath. But you're right, and there's sometimes we have to adapt and figure out how to stay grounded with the hustle and bustle all around. And it's kind of like meditating in a very serene place is amazing, but can you bring that meditative state into a busy, hectic world? And so, just to like answer your question, sometimes it's just with a simple breath and a quick visual for me.
Yes,
That's
that mine's a lot similar to yours, Ava. When I ground myself, it's not, I don't have the tree trunk, but I have roots that come out from the bottom of my feet, go into the ground, and I visualize the earth and my roots going to the center of the earth, wrapping around the core, and then bringing that light from the center of the earth up through the bottom of my feet, up into my body. So the light's coming through, filtering through my body. And then I have the white light coming from source through the top of my head. And then they meet at my heart chakra and just kind of filters my whole body. I do that for grounding, but if I'm like Toma, how you're saying, if you're in the store and your kids are running around and everything is hectic, I just ask my angels, okay, angels, help me ground right now. Real quick, if I can't do the visualization, or if I can't even focus to do the visualization, it's like, okay, angels, I need your help to help me ground.
Kristin, I have the same exact practice. Like I visualize roots from my feet. The only difference is my roots reach the other roots of the trees of the earth and connect to them, and I get the energy back up, and then I get the energy, cosmic energy down through. I usually say source, ask source energy to come through. And then I actually did this the other day at the store. And I was like, in the moment, I feel like in order to ground, you have to realize where you're at, like not physically, but mentally, like how you're feeling. That it's the trigger that tells you, okay, whoo, I gotta take a breath, like Ava said, breath, and then it's an immediate vision of the roots, and my whole body just readjusts itself. And then it's like a clarity in 1 second, and then I'm not like anxious anymore, and I'm like, okay, that's all it took. It was like a second just to readjust. So.
To hear you guys talk about grounding with the trees is actually what I do with the trees. I never thought to bring it into my memory field when I'm, need to ground, which is a great tip. So thank you for sharing that. But what I would do is step into a gratitude. It's like, oh, be grateful for any, thank you, angels, for surrounding me with love. Thank you, God, for letting me have this experience in this life, or whatever it is, any sort of gratitude. And I find that shifts everything right away. So that's what I typically practice. But I do what you do in the forest with the trees, bringing in the light through the crown and connecting through the ground. So Gaia, the cosmos and Gaia. So yeah. So there. And what do you do, Toma?
So my new practice, that started a few days ago. So I just sound it out in my head. I'm into crystal bowls, clearly very much so now. So I just kind of sound it out and just have this Well, I do have a ringing in the ears almost constantly anyway, so I guess I tune into it and just let it sound out different notes, and
Oh,
that sort of calms me down. But over the weekend, and the reason why I was asking that question, because over the weekend, it's like a lot of things lined up in one day where it's like, oh my God, I'm unhappy about this and I'm unhappy about that. And you would think if another person was looking into my life, well, why are you complaining? This is fine and this is fine. I'm like, I'm complaining about all these things that just don't go the way I planned it. And then I just kind of, I guess, took a step back and I just found the one piece, sort of kind of what you were saying, Robyn. Well, something either to be grateful about or something, the one smallest
yes.
things to be happy-ish about. And it
Mm,
made all the difference in the
Yeah.
world. All just colors were brighter and I didn't
Hmm.
mind the things so much that were bothering me. I mean, they
It
were
seems,
still there. It just didn't they didn't bother me so much. It's
yeah.
almost like a bubble was around me. Well, there's a bunch of people and kids screaming this, that, and the other. I'm like, I'm just sitting in my own happy bubble. So
Yeah.
that was something.
It does shift you quickly. It's like almost
It,
instant,
it,
you know?
it really did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the sound and the humming, maybe, especially
Hmm.
Target.
oh my God.
Something.
Stores are just another experience. If I'm not grounded and I go into a store, I'll walk out with a headache and just, whoa, like the emotions are just, so yeah, it's important to ground. And I think it takes a good bit of awareness and mindfulness, like what we're talking about. And I think it's helpful for people to find what resonates most with them. So whatever visual, it could be a huge, um, I don't know, like big cable or something, or maybe it's a tree, or maybe, it, whatever resonates and works for somebody, if it's grounding the energy or giving it to your angels. There's many different tools, but it all does take, I think, initially awareness.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So how do you guys bring awareness into your life?
So
Grounding.
over that same weekend, sorry, Angel, just gonna make it short and sweet. Um, then it's sorry.
Oh, that's just funny, Angie. Sorry, Toma.
Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
We come full circle.
Ground in order to ground. And if you want to be aware, then you need to ground. But in order to ground, you need to be aware. So just figure it out. No.
I
I
think
think
it's
it's,
part of the spiritual journey. Sorry, Angie.
yeah, no, it's
Right?
okay. I was just going to truly believe that it just takes practice of being aware. Um, I don't like when I'm mad. I don't like when I'm
Mm.
short. I don't like that feeling. And my feelings, my emotions are what steer me.
Hmm.
So that's not who I am. And so when I start getting irritated, and sometimes I don't know that I'm irritated until usually one of my children says, Mom, what is wrong? or something. And then that triggers me to be like, oh yes, I need to refocus or whatever. But I think it's a practice of how you feel and noticing how you feel.
Mhm.
Also, there's a particular person I have in mind right now, a healer, and he lives alone. He's isolated. He doesn't. His family is in England, so he has very few triggers. Like throw yourself into your family and like deal with that and see how things are. So people dealing with husbands and wives and children and grandparents or sickness, or it's really hard to stay grounded, or to not go through life with triggers. But if you're spiritually aware, it helps. But those who aren't around a lot of people, they're not really faced with the challenge of working through those triggers. So it's almost a disservice because we really have to get good at it. And I think in the days coming forward with what we're doing, we're really going to have to know how to do this grounding. And when I was in Costco last week and we were doing our 111 and everyone had, I think Kristin and everyone had like a shopping experience or distraction or something. What had come to me is like any space is sacred. And then the second thing was, you are the sacred one. So it's like, oh, we are going to have to be the ones that hold that sacred space for others. So I think we're experiencing all of this now, and it's no coincidence that we're actually talking about it. So it's very interesting.
You every
Yeah, Robyn.
Pardon? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Angie.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said, could you imagine if everybody held sacred space for everybody else? Like,
it wouldn't, or if
that
they
would,
just, yeah, it would be such a nicer world.
Look, the card that I pulled for us, Lemuria. Check that
Ooh,
out. It says
Oh,
Lemuria, creating heaven on earth. It's happening. Thanks for bringing that up,
nice.
Angie.
yeah,
This
that's
is what would
beautiful.
happen.
Yeah,
That's to answer your question. This is what would happen.
heaven on earth.
Yes, nice. I think a lot, what helps me out a lot is staying in the present instead of looking into
Yes,
the past,
yes,
worrying about the future, trying to focus on staying in the present and focusing
excellent.
on that 0 point where when you do have a trigger. So what I've been told is when you have a trigger, it's bringing light to something that's in you, in your dark shadow self, that needs to be brought forward and transmuted. So you kind of, when you do get triggered, instead of having that reaction right away, focus on, okay, why am I having this reaction? What do I need to look inside myself? What's the lesson I'm supposed to learn here, and try to work through that. So staying in the present, I think, helps me out a lot.
That's
And
an
I have a
excellent.
hard time with staying in the present because I'm always thinking about things that happened in the past or looking into the future. So like that's a practice of mine of what I need to work on is being in the present more.
Oh,
Thank you for saying that. It's like you're
yes.
reading my mind.
Uh,
And I think Ava was talking lately about staying in the presence. And for me, that's kind of, I'm sorry, mumbo jumbo, because I do have such a hard time staying in the presence, or in the present moment. I have that difficulty. But over the weekend, I remember it was like a Saturday or Sunday morning at 9 a.m. I'm already planning. Okay, what am I going to wear tomorrow? What am I going to pack myself for lunch for tomorrow? Like everything's about later, tomorrow, not right now. And I just catch myself doing that. I'm like, uh, I will worry about that later when that moment comes. Why
mhm,
don't I focus on myself right now and take deep breath right now? And it just felt sort of almost magical in a way that I felt my beingness being sort of oomph, sort of heavier. It just sort of sunk in myself. I'm like, gosh, it feels brilliant to be in that moment.
mhm.
Um, just felt so different to what I've been experiencing, I guess.
like freedom.
Yeah.
I guess maybe freedom.
Yeah.
Something that made me think of this is that I think of the nervous system, because I was like, well, how do we build awareness, or how does somebody build awareness? And we have, we have our autonomic nervous system with our parasympathetic and sympathetic. And the sympathetic is the fight flight, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And so if we are operating from and reacting to triggers, um and or say, somebody has a good amount of trauma, sometimes they're in this sympathetic nervous system where it's sort of a older more primitive program of survival, ego. And so we can access our parasympathetic, which is more of a relaxed state, rest, digest, from either many different ways, but one of them is somatically. And so sometimes I, because we're all still dealing with stuff, and I'm still working through some stuff, and I won't be able to think my way out of something. But if I can remember to connect in with my breath and take really intentional deep breaths and drop my shoulders and just sort of send signals to my nervous system that you're safe, you're calm, then I feel that having that awareness is more accessible. And I imagine it's could be different for everybody. But I just think of, there's a lot of unconscious energy and conscious energy in the collective. And if there's a lot of unconscious energy, how does one consciously become more aware of that? And there's probably different, nervous system is just another word for these different energies, but finding a way to sort of not be operating from that fight, flight, cortisol, adrenaline state, if that makes sense.
It does. Just you're talking about making a switch from going from fight or flight situation, fear-based, reaction-based, to calm, collected, right? Vital signs are going back to normal. Your blood pressure is doing all the good stuff. Your blood sugar is doing all the good stuff, right? Your that sort of calm, relaxed, digest. I mean, you come from a much calmer place where you can make decisions from a much better place. I mean, even talking, even if not spiritual based, but medical based or anything really based in life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it just made me think of that, because if I'm, playing out an old trauma and I feel sort of more on edge, and then a trigger comes on, if I'm not careful, I'm way more apt to just react to that versus if I can sort of notice, okay, even if you can't even think in the moment, but okay, I feel this, I need to take deep breaths. Because when you're in your sort of fight or flight, the body is not taking deep breaths. And so that's one way we can send signals. And I think for just the everyday, anybody out there can at least, like, if they're struggling with this, connect in with their breath to maybe have some more space and then allow more awareness.
I'm not big into yoga anymore, but I remember years ago when I was into yoga, this yoga instructor was telling me that every time you breathe in, you activate a sympathetic nervous system, and when you breathe out, which is your breathing out is twice as long as you breathe in, you're activating your parasympathetic. So be mindful of that breath. Breathe it all out, right? Just really breathe it all out.
I can't remember who I heard it from, but they said the first thing somebody learns in monk school is how to breathe. Because we're all breathing all the time, but a lot of us are not consciously breathing, if that's like an oxymoron, I don't know.
I think it's sort of like a normal thing for us not to be conscious of what we're doing, because that's how we've been taught and that's how we've grown into this 3D world. And that now everything's changing, and it really comes down to meditation. As much as people are like, I don't want to meditate, it really comes down to that, because if you are not connecting to yourself, whether it be through breath or visualization of your own light, which is in there, you just have to pull it out and see it, that it really comes down to connecting to yourself, because in the end, that's really all there is you and yourself. And so if you're disconnected from that, and you're out here doing work, and you're out here taking care of the kids, and you're out here shopping, and you're out here driving, and you're out here this, blah, 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 then you're not always connecting to yourself in a way that will bring you back to center. But if you make it a practice to do that meditation, to connect to your light, connect to your breath, connect to yourself, it's so much easier when you're in that moment of here, there, and everywhere outside of yourself, to just take a breath and bring it all back in. And I think that's what people are not, well, I think people are starting to get it, but I think that's where we have gone astray in the past, and that now we have to come back, because ourselves and our own light is what's true. And when we come back to the truth, everything else around us is a lie. Unless and until you go into yourself and find your own light.
Yeah, so I hear a lot of people say, well, I can't meditate, or I suck at meditating, or I think too much, or I can't turn my mind off. But that's not what it's about. So let's say somebody hasn't ever meditated, or maybe they've tried and heard the wrong things about it. How would they start? And is the goal to stop thinking, or is it to be an observer, or what would you say to those people?
Well, I'll just say, because I did help somebody in my life do this, and that person does it every single day now and loves it and is so glad. So I literally just said, start every morning before you start your day. Go ahead, get dressed, whatever you gotta do, and then just sit. And it doesn't have to be 5 hours, it doesn't have to be a half an hour, just 5 minutes. Just sit, and then practice paying attention to your breath, and just do that for 5 minutes. If you can't do it for 5 minutes, do it for 1 minute, and then go from there. And it has now gotten up to almost an hour.
Wow.
For him. And so because it works, like you become so aware, I think, and calm and yourself. So that's where you start. And it just breathe. If you can clear your mind, that's even better. But just start with breathing. That's it.
Okay, so if you have all these thoughts, I have to go shopping, and I have to go make a list before I go shopping. We have all these daily life activities, ideas coming in while you're trying to sit there and meditate. What do you do? Like Ava was asking, like, do you just observe them and just don't care about them, or try to push them away, but they make their way back in there anyways?
I would say write it down. Get it out. Write it down. If that's really what's bothering you, that's what's coming to you to get it out. So write it down. And then you got that, you're good. Okay, now come back to your breath. And then that's what I would do. I don't know what other people would do, but
I think to avoid everything around you, you have to set the intention that it's a priority. It's just like going to the gym. If I turn on my computer first, I don't get anything else done. So don't turn on recognize what distracts you. Don't turn on the computer first. Do your morning routine and just sit and make it a habit. So if you can form the habit, I think you'll have much more success with it. And don't worry if you don't feel a connection. Just do that. It's almost like the manifestation process, where I remember when I was doing a reading with Kristin, and Yeshua came through for me, and he says it's really hard to do, but when you feel sick, you have to feel that you're better in order to manifest. And it's like, yes, and it's very hard to do, but when you're aware of that and you practice it, it gets easier and easier. And then one day you have the knowing, but then, or you have the understanding, and then soon enough you have a knowing, like you know in your heart, oh, this is how I do this. I'm so glad I started. And then you can teach others. That's just so mastering it, have an awareness and get started. A habit, form the habit.
Yeah.
Or before bed, or whichever time of day works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot for me, echoing what you guys are saying, is that before, when I was really young, I thought I needed to just have nothing going on up here. And sometimes, rarely, I get to that point, but what's helped me is thinking about meditation differently and seeing my true self as separate than my thoughts and emotions. And so um almost like I'm observing another self. So, and that's why it's so important with awareness, because we might be connecting with our breath and then a thought comes in and it tries to trail you off and you just say hello to it, or it's like a cloud and then it floats by. Okay. Or like a leaf on a river. These thoughts are just leaves and they float by, and it sort of allows us to defuse from those thoughts and emotions, or maybe triggers for and so it is like that practice. And if nobody's ever done it, um like Angie said, 5 minutes, or maybe somebody starts with 30 seconds, or maybe somebody starts with just taking a deep breath and grounding. And like you said, Robyn, is the habit. James Clear was talking about how a habit must be established before it can be improved, and I really liked that, because even just establishing one small thing, and then you can build upon that, like Angie's friend did. And so, and just making the barrier to it getting started as slow as possible. So yeah, if I just need to sit for 5 minutes and connecting with my breath, I can do that. Like that sounds, you know, if I plan on going on a solitary retreat for 5 hours and astral traveling to my distant planet, and just kidding, but or am I? But that's a little bit more harder to get started with for me, which then I feel like those things naturally come when they come, so yeah.
I also find that just doing certain tasks, like when I'm working on the computer and designing something, I'm in a different state. And to me, it's meditative. When I was cycling my bike through the trails as I commuted to work back and forth, that you're breathing. It's just automatic, and then you go in a zone. Like, so you could be cooking and chopping vegetables, and it's rhythmic. And I like to cook when I'm in joy. If I have to cook under pressure, it's like, I don't feel like cooking today, and the meal's not going to taste the same. So let's do something simple instead. Um, so I find it could be in a meditative state in many ways throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
But starting with that one intention of doing this every day helps to get to that place where you can start meditating during different activities that you might be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I believe all of it is connecting to your light. So when I say that, I mean your light is your love, your joy,
exactly.
your world. So sometimes if you're just starting out, you need to be quiet first, because with all the chatter, you can't know what brings you joy, what brings you light, because it's too much out here going on. So, Robyn, like, you like to cook when you're in the zone, then that's what brings you joy. That's your light. Like,
exactly.
Ava, you like to write. I like to write. We both like to write. Well, I'm in a zone when I'm doing that. That brings me joy. So, like, that's, like you said, Robyn, it's a form of meditation as well. Yeah.
Totally. For me, coloring, adult coloring book is a form of meditation. Maybe playing music or just rocking out to music,
Yeah, yeah.
reading a book. It's just something that unplugs you sort of from the rest of the world, and you're in your own happy bubble. Form of meditation for me.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. How about you, Kristin?
When I first started meditating, I like to go on YouTube and look up guided meditations. I felt that they really helped me focus to where I didn't have those thoughts coming in all the time, where I'm listening to somebody else telling me what to visualize and what's happening, and then I would kind of go off into my own zone. I think that helped me out a lot. And then after I did that for a while, then I sort of in my mind visualize my own meditation space. So I have like this beach that I set up in my mind, and everything around me I created myself. So now I have that space that I go to and bring in my angels and everything. But I really appreciated YouTube for getting me started and having those guided meditations. So I had something to practice, so I was able to finally do it on my own. And like I'll give myself Reiki. That's a form of meditation for me. Doing the dishes, that kind of stuff. Sitting out in my backyard.
Yeah. It's
Awesome.
like presence. It really feels like we could bring meditation, that state, anywhere into anything, because it's a sort of presence, which I feel aligns with the flow state that we have talked about before, and when things just sort of align and feel effortless in a way. It's just really refreshing, because personally I worked really hard. All of us have worked really hard, and but it seems like when something is in your alignment, for lack of a better term, it just works out. Like things just begin to work out.
Fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
With divine timing.
Yep. You, oh Jesus.
Trust
You're,
me,
you're
you're not
sideways.
alone.
What are you doing? You're floating. There's no gravity.
Yeah.
Zero gravity, Ava.
Oh Lord. Okay. Here we are.